You got ID on you?
Sir, what crime am I committed?
Well, I can tell you right now, she's got some issues going on.
Okay, but you guys pulled her over. I'm not driving.
You're all in a car that plates that don't belong on it. So once we get everybody identified, we can go that route or we can play the hard route.
Sir.
Do what?
Sir, I didn't commit any crime. What crime have I committed?
All right, you want to step out of the car too then? Go into handcuffs?
A traffic stop turns into an officer violating the rights of these folks in their car.
Sir, why am I being detained?
ID, or you're going to give me your social, name, date of birth? One of the three.
Why am I being detained?
Hey, you want to watch him in the back? He's claiming chest pains. Do what?
Why am I?
Go ahead and leave your phone in the car.
Here, record this.
You got any guns or anything crazy on you? Just don't reach in your pocket.
I don't have any. Make it easy. I do not give permission to search me.
Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back. Hold together. Do you have any guns or any knives or anything like that on you?
No, sir. I do not give consent to search me.
You can hear him saying he does not consent to a search, which is important to capture on video.
Well, guess what? I can pat you down for weapons.
I know.
You understand that, correct?
Yes, sir.
What's this? Put it in there, okay? That way it doesn't get broke.
I don't give permission to search me.
In Michigan, Aldridge Legal Services wrote, many people stopped by the police may not realize that they may refuse to provide ID when the police ask for it. The officer may request your ID or request to search you. You may decline the officer's request unless the officer has probable cause or reasonable suspicion they cannot force you to submit. In the state of Washington, this also rings true. Via Brumley Law Firm, the officer may ask a passenger for ID. He or she may ask passengers other questions as well. What is important to know is that in Washington, the officer may not require passengers to give ID, and a passenger is not required to answer questions and may decline to answer. The passenger would even be free to exit the car and walk away from the scene unless the officers could later convince the court that they had specific facts that made them believe that their safety was at risk, or they had probable cause to believe the passenger had committed a crime. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals even wrote as such. That holds even in a state with a stop and identify law, and even if the initial stop of the car for a traffic violation committed by the driver was legal. The opinion by a 3-judge panel of the Ninth Circuit is one of the most significant decisions to date, interpreting and applying the widely misunderstood 2004 U.S. Supreme Court decision, Hibble versus Nevada. A Q&A with a lawyer printed via the outlet The Daily Breeze wrote, a routine traffic stop likely would not prompt an officer to ask a passenger to identify himself or herself. Research indicates, however, that if the police officer has a reasonable suspicion that criminal activity may be taking place, then the officer can request that you identify yourself. This reasonable suspicion of criminal activity means that you, as a passenger, are involved. It is not just a possibility of your participation. In turn, you can ask if you're being detained or if you are free to go. If the officer indicates you can leave, that's a good sign. If you're detained and asked to identify yourself, you have to decide if withholding your identification is worth the risk of possible arrest or detention.